Now that SEC Media Days have concluded, we got to go ahead and break it down. Y'all know what we do here. We're going to dive into some of the things that Brent Venables said that really jumped out to your boy. We'll do the players on another video because there's a ton of content that's coming down the line, a ton of stuff for me to talk about and address. And so, but I'm going to start with Coach BV, what he talked about and the things that really, like I said, stood out to me as I kind of marinated over the last couple of days. So let's dive into that. Before we do that, welcome to Unfair Sports. I'm your host, Jay. Thank y'all for pulling up to the channel. All right, this is going to be not too long. We'll probably go through our typical 10 to 12 minutes, but we're going to dive into what Brent Venables had to talk about because, of course, he gave us a great and epic opening statement. I think it was, 15 minutes? I believe he was the longest. I haven't seen anybody post the length of everybody else, but I think Brian Kelly was like 12 minutes and BV surpassed that at like 15. Me looking at the file and stuff, he was going. But we'll dive into that because there was a few points he made that I think a lot of our fan base needs to hear. And it made me think about why we are where we are right now and kind of the causation to why we're at this point. And so we'll jump into that. Also, some of the questions he took, and we'll kind of dive into some feelings on it. But before we jump right into that portion, I want to let y'all know a quick announcement. August 1st, we're going to drop a new set of shirts. Y'all know we got merch for the channel. You can see it in the link description below. You get that there's one Oklahoma shirt. There's another one SEC, Oklahoma DNA, blah, 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 OU DNA. Got a few different shirts on the shop. Check them out. But I'm going to do my revenge tour and shirts for the second season of the SEC. So I had my nephew design them so they look dope. So go ahead and check them out if you want to be a part of the action. But anyway, let's talk about BV. So of course, BV went up there, had his nice long conversation, but he said a few things that really jumped out to me to make me realize why we are here at this point. So when I went through the notes of it and watched him, of course, BV, he went up there looking all sharp. Love the gray. He looked really good in it. But one of the things he pointed out was with the way the roster is set, looking at the snap count, looking at the number of players that have played on this roster at the time, we had a lot of young players play once again. So he pointed out that we were at the tops of playing freshmen and sophomores once again. And of course, that was mainly because you dealt with injuries last season. That was kind of that key thing. But what it made me start thinking about was it kind of feels like BV went the opposite direction of a rebuild/retool. Whereas if he had done a lot of the kind of cleaning and stuff year one, we probably wouldn't be at this point year three, because when all those players left, especially in the offensive line, after the second season, which was highly successful, going 10-2 before the bowl game, finishing 10-3, you'd already played a ton of young players that year. And then you went back and did it a second year in a row, in which that's a recipe for disaster when it comes to playing in the SEC. You can't go out there and play a bunch of young people and think that that's going to work. It doesn't work that way. You got to have some veteran presence when you're playing in a conference that's that good. And so we had to take our lumps. We got our butts kicked a lot. And we learned very quickly with our lessons on how we need to survive. Well, the good thing with BV is he also talked about the staff. He talked about a lot of players. So, of course, he pointed out, John Materi. He talked about R. Mason Thomas as well as Robert Spears-Jennings, the three that was there. Again, I'll have a video to discuss some of their thoughts and everything, especially the interview me and John over at Locked On Sooners did of Robert Spears-Jennings. That was dope. He was awesome. Tulsa boy, and of course he checks out the channels, and so he is a frequent tuner in, and we like him being an everydayer. But anyway, but another thing BV talked about with him talking about the youth, it made me say, all right, what is the game plan this year? Well, the good thing is going into this year, you've got a lot more veteran presence in comparison. You've got more juniors, redshirt juniors. You got a lot of seniors on the defensive side of the ball. And what Oklahoma's going to have to do to be successful this season. They're going to have to lean heavy on those vets. Now, bringing in all those players, transfers in for the wide receiver room in order to help with that transition, that's going to be a big part of what this team does going forward. You know, John Mateer, Jaden Ott, of course, he raved about Ott being a home run running back, one that just he hits the hole gone. Something that we really needed, that explosiveness. You're getting that, plus you'll still have all the other backs in the backfield, which the good thing is going into 2026, you'll have more veterans there in the backfield, right? That's kind of what you're hoping for. But then, of course, Brent Venables was being Brent Venables. He decided to be that guy that everyone loves about him. Like, everybody says this. Like, you'll see media members tweet this out and point it out. He's just someone very easy to root for because he's a genuinely nice dude. And I've said that before. I said that it's a blessing and a curse for him in this industry because this is a cutthroat industry. College football and coaching it's a cutthroat world. You've got to be a little bit on the you got to be a little edgy with what you do if you want to survive. BV really ain't. He's really a dude that's just, like I said, he's super nice. He's very accommodating. He's one that everybody loves. And that's going to hurt. It can't hurt him in a way long term. But I think that he's got the ship in the right direction now with NIL and all the changing landscapes, bringing in Jim Nagy. And those conversations is going to help him going forward. But he talked about Jackson Arnold, and I thought that was intriguing that he said that he was trying to retain Jackson Arnold. So it would have been Mateer, Arnold, and Michael Hawkins all in the same room, which would have been interesting because then at that point somebody has to redshirt. You're not gonna play both Michael Hawkins and Jackson Arnold, in which we all know that you want to redshirt Michael Hawkins. And he said some things that to me was true. You know, the situation was not optimal for Jackson Arnold to be able to be successful. It wasn't built for him to be successful with, you know, not only Latrell, but the injuries we were dealing with. Now, granted, with that being said, the one thing from Jackson Arnold that we hoped to get that we didn't was him just taking over and doing stuff. He didn't have confidence for it. But it appears he's probably going to get that back. Hopefully. We'll see what it looks like at Auburn. I think that Brent Venables is going to be prepared for him. Jackson Arnold made comments as well. I know you saw it, guys, saw those notes, so we'll dive into that as well this weekend. We'll have, like I said, a bunch of videos and content that we're going to drop and talk through all of this. Let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. I want to hear y'all's thoughts. From there, though, Brent Venables had some statements and comments around young players to keep your eyes on. Me and John talked about it in Locked On Sooners, but he went down the line. Now, granted, Brent Venables talked about the beginning of his statement on the young players that we played last year, freshmen and sophomores, high snap counts with that. When he talked about players coming into this season that we expect to contribute, he went right back to more young players. Michael Fasusi, Ryan Fogier, which we've talked about here. Me and Coop have talked about on the lives, and I've talked about on some videos as well. We all know that those two true freshmen are definitely going to find a way on the field. They may not start, but they could push their way to try to start by the end of the season, but they're ready to play. As long as they pick up the scheme, you should be good, and they got their technique down. Technique is always the most important thing. Eddie Pierre-Louis is expected to see a lot. He's my starting left guard right now. As Heath Ozida has went through that shoulder surgery, I'm thinking EPL will probably start at the same time because remember, with EPL, the reason why you didn't see a whole bunch of them last season is he didn't come into the summertime. So he still had a lot of learning to do in fall camp, and that does slow you down. You play a little bit at the end. He had the nasty streak, what all of y'all love. I expect to see more. I expect EPL to start. But he talked about UK Dan, too. Now, that one, to me, got your boy excited. Because everybody loved Daniel Akinkunmi. His Boomer Sooner shirts, which was awesome. I got one or whatnot to support the kid. And when BV said his name, I was like, okay. we're seeing the progress we wanted to see on the offensive line. Bill Beatonbo's got the young guys. They're developing. They're pushing forward. That got me excited because that's what we're going to need after this year. Maybe not this year, but afterwards, yeah, we're definitely going to need it going into next season. And that's a plus for us right now as a team. So I like to hear that. BV, he sounded great. He didn't sound defeated like he has been in press conferences before. And honestly, I think that to me, it feels like things are going well with his wife, who has been, she's been battling cancer or whatnot, and they've been traveling to New York for her stuff. And so it sounds like she may be doing well. So, but he seemed spry and he seemed happy and he seemed energetic, which is a good thing. He's always like that, but at the same time, that stuff weighs on you, right? That weighs on you completely. But then BV dove into some of the defensive players. He talked about Cortland Guillory, Omarion Robinson, a.k.a. Man. I think my favorite part is, too, I tweeted this out, that BV always calls everybody by their nicknames. You got UK Dan, you got Man, right? Stoney. He mentions everybody by their nicknames. I love that he has that relationship with them like that. But anyway, then you got Danny. He mentioned Daniel Collier, Reggie Powers, as well as David Stone should see a lot of time. So don't be surprised if you see some young players in a lot of spots. That way they can get and gain that experience that we know that they need to have. I'm actually getting more and more bullish about this team, and talking with guys over at ESPN and CBS and everything, and hearing some of the outside conversations. There's a reason why everybody is starting to get more and more bullish on this team, because they're seeing and listening to BV talk about it and point those things out. He's not just throwing out hopium. He's pointing out a lot of the logic behind this team. Remember, that team that went 10-2 in the regular season, 10-3 overall, we played a ton of young players that year too. Like the defensive line this year, those guys were just really playing then, and that's when you kind of saw the defense kind of slowing up at the end of the season. It wasn't as strong, but then it got stronger and stronger. It was strong, really strong last year, and a lot of those dudes are back, right? You still got Dominic Williams, who's back. You got, of course, Jaden Jackson, who's a freshman All-American. David Stone hopefully should make some impact, because he was starting to make some moves last year. Grayson Halton's on a whole bunch of draft boards right now, and that's what we've been hoping for, is to get some more defensive players that can get drafted. Then the secondary, Robert Spears-Jennings and blah, blah, blah. Like, you've got a long list of these dudes. And you're like, man, this is going to be some good stuff. And so BV went up there and he gave a lot of good energy in his speech. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. Of course, you had some butt cheeks up there talking noise about the games. Right? Like, he has Texans fans up there making some quote unquote jokes, but overall, you got to see a BV who is starting to, he's understanding what needs to be done. And that's the beauty of hiring a Jim Nagy to help with the things that we know that BV, for the most part, hasn't shown that he's really comfortable with. The NIL piece is just not his thing. And I think that now the school and the team is going to go a lot more into that. We just need to figure it out and do it the right way for Oklahoma. So let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. BV gave us some good content to talk through, and I want to hear from you all. All right. Again, content's coming like crazy. I'm still breaking down stuff. We'll talk more of, we'll talk the players and their interviews. I'll talk about Jim Nagy and my takeaway from my interview with him, plus some of the other interviews I heard him do while I was there, because he was walking around doing some interviews, and me and John was kind of standing there and chit-chatting with him, and he was like, yeah, I'll come back around and I'll sit with you all. I was like, okay, cool. Sure, you're going to come back, right? And he was walking around, and some other people tried to grab him. He's like, oh, I got to be at an appointment. Got to, these times that I've already committed to. So he went and did his interviews or whatnot. And then I listened to BV talk, caught the last 10 minutes of his speech and then the questions, when I went back up, it's funny because I went back to our table and he was in that area doing an interview with somebody else. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, let me go ahead. I got my computer, got set up, and I'm just kind of just sitting there. He walked over to the table and he was like, that's where I sit. And I'm like, yeah, cool. So he was very forthcoming and honest. Watch that interview over on Locked On Sooners. You can check out that video. He didn't play. Like, he was straight up about a lot of stuff. And I asked him some questions. I tried to press as much as I could, as comfortable as I could be in pressing on some things. But he gave you guys some great insight. So check that video out. Stick around. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, bell notification so you don't miss any of the new content. And we'll chop it up soon.